Hey guys, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope you all just had a good one, whatever you happen to celebrate. Strap in for this video because this is going to be quite a personal one. Um, I've been wanting to do something like this as the year continued to go on, and I'm sure as you can see from my channel that I have not put out many videos at all. I definitely wasn't able to do nearly anything that I was hoping for and was planning to do. And it especially hurts because this was a big year for Atlas and I wanted to do just so much more. And I just felt limited by my physical health, yes, but mainly, this has been mentally and emotionally the worst year ever in my entire life. This month marks 9 years since I was completely paralyzed from the shoulders down. Like, I'm no joke. I will be including pictures and videos in here, by the way. Um, I won't always be calling direct attention to them, but they'll be included on screen as relevant or necessary. I do genuinely want to share this stuff and part of my story because I know for a fact that I have felt super helped and just felt like I was not so alone. And like whenever I hear about people who have chronic illness or disability when they as young people, um that always really like resonates with me personally because this particular experience of having chronic illness, disability when you're young is like super and I guess I'm referring more to like physical disability when you're young is like just it's super isolating. People conflate being young with being healthy and to be fair, it absolutely makes sense because the average person's body hasn't started to break down yet. But so that makes it very hard for those of us who are not healthy in our teens or our 20s and our 30s. It's just truly an unfathomable way you're forced to live your life unless you've had to experience it. I personally describe it since I've had this since I was 2015. It's kind of forced me almost to live a life similar to like what COVID was. So living like COVID before it was um the pandemic, and then still having to live that way after everyone has been able to go back to society. So it feels like a double whammy because it's just like I'm still stuck kind of feeling. Oh yeah, so I apologize though. This video is gonna be kind of meandering a lot, though I've tried my best to sort of separate it into three particular sections. This first one being the main or the biggest one, that deals with the evolution of my mental state and emotions and thoughts towards my transverse myelitis, due to the circumstances going on this year. Um, I'm just like so fucking angry this year, this whole year. And what really set it off for me is when Persona 3 Reload came out on February 2nd of 2024. I was so grateful to receive a code, and I was so excited to just start playing. You know, Persona 3 is my favorite Persona game. It has been for 10 years. I was so excited for this remake and all the things I was going to do for it. And just my transverse myelitis symptoms were just they were so bad that week. I have this lasting thing called muscle spasticity. So Spasticity is when your muscles just contract and they just kind of stay that way. They're really stiff. It makes it very hard to move them, and that happens. I have a particularly hard problem with that in my left leg. So it makes it hard to walk, to get around, to do anything. And so it like I already have to think. I don't know if I've ever truly shared this before. Like I have to think, like I like what muscles to activate, like where, how to place my hips, like my glutes, like how to activate and when to activate them, to take a step to propel like my right leg forward, then my left leg forward. Like it's something that obviously like normal people, like I was able-bodied before I got transverse myelitis in 2015, so that's 19 years of my life. I was able bodied in the sense where I had no mobility problems. I did not have disability, and now I have to think about walking. And I already have to think about walking, but when I have muscle spasticity get really bad during like flare up times, um, like it makes every single daily living task harder. Like the amount of energy and effort it takes just doubles. So even stuff like going to the kitchen to like make food, let alone just get food to eat, going to the bathroom, um, it takes so much more out of me. And I have definitely found ways to adapt around this, make things easier for myself, especially when I get into the state. But it's still hard. And so to go back to Persona 3 Reload, I could not start the game until the 7th. And like reminder, it came out on the 2nd. And I think it was genuinely just seeing people being able to, like play the game and also enjoy it, like get it done and then like get videos out on it right away. Making a lot of content on it right away. Meanwhile, it's just like I can't do long gaming sessions like that anyway, you know? It's just and it's like it's just this thing where I know I can't compare myself to people who like I have different circumstances than other people just uh, as a natural result of my health condition. And this year was truly the year when it just hit me that yeah, um I can't do everything that everyone else is able to do. And like, by the way, I want to make it clear, like, I don't have any particular like anger or resentment or anything like at particular people. Like some of these people are my friends, and I am genuinely glad they can do this stuff and they need to take advantage of the like when the games are trending and stuff. And I'm happy they can take advantage of that. But yeah, so it's just like I just want to make it clear that like my anger and rage like at this thing is just it's just at the situation. Okay. And like for me, my personal circumstances, just to give like another example of how much this condition affects my everyday life, since I got this in 2015, I, no joke, have not had a single second of relief from chronic neuropathy or nerve pain in like my like from the waist down and all throughout my legs. I've tried so many medications, so many different treatments, so much physical therapy, so much exercise. Ultimately, and I still do these things. I still exercise all the time, like multiple times a week, just to retain the strength that I have gotten back. Since maybe it's not maybe I haven't been clear enough, but like I have made great strides since I was literally, paralyzed from the shoulders down. But but I'm not like I still have to walk with like trekking poles now. And like I played sports my whole life. Before this, I was an active person before this. Um I did hiking. I was part of like this outdoor recreation. I was a staffer of this program actually. So I belayed people for ropes courses for the rock wall, and I have done backpacking, wilderness backpacking before. But yeah, so exercise, and ultimately nothing has really helped that much. I am on basically the highest dose you can possibly be um, on this thing called gabapentin, and it's the only thing that has really taken the edge off for me. Even then, the pain is like always nagging. Like at best, it's like a four or five on like the 10 point like pain scale. The actually really like worse and bad days, it's like a straight up eight. It's just this really persistent burning and occasionally stabbing um pain that just never ever ever goes away. um and I guess the closest thing I can draw comparison to is that it feels like kind of like what you get when you get pins and needles in your legs. So the other medication I take in conjunction, basically, is for my muscle spasticity that I mentioned earlier, and it's called baclofen. And the thing about these two things is that there is this study out there that kind of finds a correlation between when you take gabapentin and baclofen together. There is a correlation of both short-term and long-term memory loss. And I do I do know that it's been harder for me to concentrate post transverse myelitis, and I've been on these two drugs the entire time, like the entire time since 2015. I've been on them. Even when I've tried to taper off or try to get off them, like there's no way, like I cannot function without them. They are the things that work the best for me. And so it's just very, in other words, like it's worse. I am in such pain that I will like I actively consider offing myself without them, without these drugs. And so it's really frustrating because, like I asked my neurologist, my both of my neurologists, before about like, hey, so I have seen that study about the gabapentin and baclofen, and like um one of them, from the one from UCSF, he's just like, yeah, it is probably plays a big factor into why you have such a problem with brain fog. Which, yeah, again, like I have had a big problem with that. I'm trying not this video. I There are so many times where like I'm trying to film this video and I'm like totally lose my train of thought, or like I cannot think of the word, and then I just so that's a big part of like why you might notice like there's a lot of cuts or jumping around, and that's part of that is because of the brain fog that is a big result of taking super high dose. But anyway, sorry, so this was a very long um thing to say that. So yeah, so this condition really affects every single second, every day of my life. And it's to the extent where like I have never been financially independent since I got this disease. Um I can really only work 4 to 5 hours on average every day. Um and that's on good days actually. And if I do try to do more, I end up really paying for it with huge flare ups of my TM. in the days after if I try to do more than that. I've tried in the past and it has not worked out well. And this kind of leads into why this year and that Persona 3 Reload thing was like so hard on me that cuz I really wanted to do more, and the reality is like I am so used to my whole life before transverse myelitis of I guess for lack of a better descriptor, I was like that overachiever, and so were all my friends. So were all of my closest friends, my closest peers, the people who I chose to surround myself with. We were all like that.
Hey guys, so I'm currently editing the video right now, and I just want to clarify or preface this next section that a big thing about this year for me is finally truly grieving the loss of identity that comes with chronic illness. I have been very resilient, honestly, for the past 9 years already. And this year just felt like the first time where I just truly thought about all of the like domino amount of shit that happened in 2015. These next section will go into how exactly that is. But yeah, so I just want to preface that chronic illness is very hard because for a lot of us, we lose our identity entirely in so many ways because we can no longer do what we are used to doing so easily before in the past. But yeah, so back to the video.
I'd like to apologize ahead of time because these next maybe like 5 minutes are gonna sound like pretty bougie and also like definitely like it's tooting my own horn a bit, like but I need to make it clear why it hits so hard for me personally. So basically, I was very diligent starting from an early age. I not only studied hard and did well in school, but I was also involved in a lot of activities, like music, sports, and then when I could, like, when I was old enough, part time jobs, so on. I'm used to a very competitive environment. That was the nature of like the public high school or the public school system that like my parents actually sacrificed a lot to be able to move to this neighborhood so I could take advantage of such a great opportunity and resource of a school district, and even though I was in a competitive environment and I did struggle with imposter syndrome at times, I also learned a lot about self-efficacy from my friends, from the fellow peers that I surrounded myself with. They were all just as like, for lack of a better word, we were all very much like overachievers. So I guess for more context, I went to a rather large public high school, around 2,000 students total, about 500 in my class, and just every class in general. And um, I used to land between like the top 10 to 20% of it each year. Like I really mean it when I say this school was built around like, yeah, excellence, for lack of a better description. I guess to try and give a better idea of like what the teachers and stuff like expected from us, and also just like the competitive spirit was, my high school never recognized any valedictorians or salutatorians right from its inception in 1999. Every graduating class was just simply had too many qualified students because there were plenty of kids who took like all AP classes, captains of like the science Olympiad team, um, Model United Nations, speech and debate. Like everyone was like leaders of multiple clubs, while also, like, at the same time being, like, the captain or something of varsity tennis or water polo or, like, soccer, like, just insert whatever sport here, and not only that, like, oh, dang, they're, like, the first chair clarinet in the top chamber orchestra at our school. Like, we had 4 tiers of, like, orchestra and band and stuff like that. It was pretty insane. And like we did win the Grammy Signature Award my senior year. I'm kind of proud of that as a trombonist. But anyway, like, did I mention they're like a member of the National Youth Orchestra of America? Like, yeah, in general, every single graduating class sent like dozens of kids to like the top UCs or the top private schools. Um, and I want to be clear that like these kids, like they did not have like legacy admission. Like most of these kids that I went to school with did not have some kind of like legacy admissions thing. Yes, I admittedly we are very privileged. We were very privileged to be a pretty like affluent neighborhood, an affluent tax bracket, which is why like the public schools were so good. Sorry, I know that this part sounds like a very big like, like boasting about myself, and it kind of is, but it's just like I'm trying to give context of like why it's so hard to be the way I am now. So I finished high school, and it wasn't easy for me either. Like I'm going to talk about this um soon about like the stuff the stuff about my mom and everything. Yeah, so I knew how to work hard, um do well. I got into pretty great schools. Unfortunately, my dream was to go to Northeastern University, and I really liked their co-op program, and also that they had a pretty robust and focused international affairs program, and I was very grateful I got in. But like, the financial aid, the I got scholarship, a much better financial aid and scholarship deal at this little private school in Massachusetts too. And it had international affairs, and that's what I wanted to do. That was my interest. If I took that offer, I would be graduating with less than $10,000 in debt, and so I was just like, "Damn, that's nice." But also, like, it actually turned out like it helped me a lot. I learned later on that it was also pretty well known for the alumni who go on to do a lot of nonprofit NGO or like a lot of humanitarian work, especially because like they have a pretty great social work program, and that's where I met a lot of like-minded. It kind of turned out for the best that like I was able to have more opportunities in that way. I think at this other school, and to go back to like um why this hits me so hard is that like at college I fluctuated between being first and second of my entire class. Now, like, given it was a smaller campus, so it was around only 2,000 people in enrollment total, and my graduating class would be around like 500ish, so kind of the same as my high school. But still, like I was double majoring, and I was still fluctuating between first and second. And to go back to like the opportunities for like humanitarian work in particular, I got involved with those connections like right away in my freshman year. And by my sophomore year, I was already selected as one of the like 12 cohort in what's basically their top community engagement program. And I also ran my own student government campaign. A number of my friends thought I would be good at it. And so I did, and I was elected rep at large. So I was rep at large. I chose student life committee, which was tasked with just like planning and doing these fun events for the student body. Oh man, there's still there's honestly a lot. Like there's a lot, and I'm trying not to bog you all down with like details. So I guess long story short, so again, by sophomore year, I was already doing two, fortunately, two paid internships that were related to my field and what I wanted to work in later. And but the fact is that, like, you know, they weren't opportunities that just landed in my lap. Like, I had to do the research, I had to find the activities, I had to do the networking, I had to like make sure to connect with the faculty, with the people involved. um you know, like, I did the planning, I ultimately made sure that I had all the qualifications needed to like apply, go through the rounds of interviews, get the recommendations, and then, you know, to even have a shot, you know, to be considered. I was very fortunate since it meant that I didn't have to rely on being support staff at this outdoor rec program for the extra money. Like, this was stuff that was related to my major that I was also fortunate to get that extra moolah that like I needed as part of the like leadership or internship role. Editing lady here. Sorry. So like I guess the big point of me talking about the college stuff too is that this was exactly what was happening in my life, like right when transverse myelitis hit me and everything abruptly stopped. Okay, so this is why this is relevant. And so I guess like a final thing on this college topic, I was super excited to get selected to do HNMUN, or Harvard National MUN, in the months leading up to my transverse myelitis. So this will sound very nerdy slash cheesy, but it's basically akin to what the NCAA conference playoffs are, or like just picture any Division One collegiate sport. Um, but but for international affairs and policy majors. So it was a competitive thing to qualify for within our poli sci department, and the faculty and like upperclassmen who have experience at this particular conference are the ones who decide the team, mostly based on our like previous MUN um performance. And I got selected to be part of the delegation, and I was actually working on preparations during winter break. That's what's expected of us. And literally the day before I got transverse myelitis, I was working on the research. So I'm used to um wanting to do this stuff for myself too. Like, my parents aren't the ones. I feel like I think people assume because I'm Asian that like my parents are the ones who were really forcing me to do well in school and all that stuff. But you know, they weren't, you know, my dad and mom, they just wanted to put me in the best possible school district, you know, and just so I could be afforded the best opportunities. But basically, as long as I did my best, as long as I tried my best, and did what I wanted to do, they were proud of me or happy with me. And so, like, this is how I know, like I wanted to do this for myself, you know. I do, admittedly, I realize these past couple years that like I get a lot of satisfaction in accomplishing stuff and like achievements. And it's just really hard um having that all just abruptly stop, and ever since then, like, I have never been able to return to anywhere close to near that. This leads me kind of into like the second section, the second major section of this video. So the fact that I've been struggling so much this year, on one hand, makes me sad because in the past I've been very good at reframing my circumstances and focusing on things I can do and what I still can accomplish. I've been doing that for years, like years and years and years and years and years. Um, and I like to think I've been doing that without leaning too much into toxic positivity.
Hope you'll allow me to clarify a little bit again. So it's not that I didn't allow negative thoughts or feelings in my like when I was just alone personally. I would allow myself to think of those things and dwell on those things as needed or necessary. But I also know, like, looking back at old messages people gave me all throughout my teenage years and like my young adult years, that I was known as kind of the friend who's a good listener and really allowed people to like open up and kind of just validate people's feelings. And yet, I think the thing I'm realizing is I didn't always necessarily open up that much myself. I am learning this year that I tend to sugarcoat things a lot. And that's why this video is kind of important for me to do, because it makes it it feels like I'm being more open.
If you want an idea of what I would write, it's like, here are some of the things I essentially blogged about and shared before I completely deactivated all my personal social media in 2018. I don't want to spend too much time on this stuff in particular, but I guess like you can pause to read if you want. I will have some of these text posts like going on like in the background in the section. But yeah, if I had to add up like my 9 years of transverse myelitis with the years that my dad and I were caregivers to my very sick mom, she was bedridden the last like year and a half or so of her life. It, the whole thing, it amounts to about 13 years total for me. There was about 2 years of, like, in between relief and, getting to live my own life, not really having beyond, like, the normal difficulties people might have, but then I became paralyzed at the end of 2015, and it's, again, feels like, it's been kind of survival mode again ever since. Yeah, like, as you can see from the posts that I've been sharing on screen, um, like, I pride myself on, being able to make lemonade out of lemons. You know, I've always been fairly pretty good at that just naturally. I've been fortunate, too. I feel like it's nurture is a big thing too. My parents, I want to make sure like I give credit to my parents as well. They are both very they handle adversity very well. They are very resilient people and still compassionate people. Like they've never been toxic positive like to me in the difficult parts or the hard parts, but also I think just like by my personal nature is um is a more naturally optimistic one. I have always kind of seen the glass as half full instead of half empty, the cliche. And so it makes this year such an outlier year for me. It's been very hard to tap into that kind of resilience. Um and I guess my honest thoughts and it's important for me to I know it's important for me to like feel these kinds of things. Um it's very important. Um One of the most pressing things I've really felt, I feel like this year in particular, is just like looking back on how it has just felt like nothing but survival mode. Um and and the whole thing with like my mom and being a caregiver for my mom at night during my final couple years of high school, um because she couldn't walk, she couldn't do anything for herself. um it just it just basically it basically feels like I had to become an adult really early and earlier than many of my peers, and yet it also feels like I've never had a chance to also become an adult and like enjoy the actual parts of being an adult because um and not only that, it's like I feel like I've learned so early on about like not taking things for granted, not taking life for granted, and doing all that you can so you don't have regrets, you know? And it just feels like this very cruel irony. Like, it's just it's so, like, mind-boggling to me, like, how why this kind of happened that, I can't help but kind of laugh because otherwise it just makes me so sad to think about. To think about the fact that, like, now that I'm in my late 20s, you know, like, I look back at I'm just like, I look at that poor, like, 19-year-old girl who got sick, and I'm just like, "Damn, damn." Like, that's just how it is. So I don't wanna lose all hope, but I do have my doubts that I'll ever be financially independent, you know? Regular employment is like all but moot. It's just a moot thing for me. Not only because I have like enormous gaps in my work experience or like any kind of experience within these past 9 years, but also because I can't work full time in the first place. And no, my body simply can't do what's required to qualify for the FMLA Act in the US. So that would be a great protection to have, but like I would not be able to qualify anyway. I know my body well enough over these past 9 years to know that, like, I've tried, you know, I've tried. It's not from a lack of trying. Um, but yeah, it's, because you know, like, I think I'm showing on the screen too right now, or, like, as this section progresses, like, all of the effort it took to just literally get back to standing and then to walking and then to, like and the this is over a period of months and months to years. But, something that particularly stands out to me and that I didn't really think about even I'll be completely honest, like, within these past 9 years, it's something that I didn't really think about until this year is that, I I couldn't help but notice that when I hear other people share their journey about chronic illness, and especially, like, the disability or, like, you know, they had partial paralysis and they had to, gain back their function, um in my personal story, I was just so isolated from my personal support system. And by that, I mean, I was like completely separated, like legit hundreds to thousands of miles away from all my friends. So, like, long story short, I grew up my whole life in Southern California, SoCal, and my dad had moved back to his hometown in NorCal um, during my first years of college. And these two places are over 400 miles away from each other, and that's a 6 hour drive. During the summer in college, I was always doing internships or activities back at school, which which was all the way in the Northeast. So I never had a chance to establish any new relationships in my dad's old hometown. And yet that's where I got my TM. It was during winter break when I was home. And so I had this sudden complete paralysis and condition that's so like it's so immobilizing and debilitating that I wouldn't even be functional enough to be independent again until over 2 years later. when I was like finally in a place to transfer to like a school that was nearby. This aunt and uncle who actually cared for me while I was an outpatient at a spinal cord rehab unit in 2016. But I will, I guess if I haven't already talked about that in this video, I will talk about that soon in this section. But like right? I hear about these other people's stories and they seem to have like their friends around them, and it kind of helps motivate them in a way. So yeah, so just imagine trying to get better or like get right without your friends around. Like anywhere near the closest friends are like 400 miles away, and then like the ones that I had in college, like they're like thousands of miles away. It doesn't work out. And so it's kind of hard. I found that I had to be my own motivation much of the time while I was recovering. My doctors and nurses um noticed, how motivated I was, like how I showed up to all of my, because at spinal cord injury rehab, like they can only work with you if you're willing to work with them. There are some patients who, like, I can understand why you would be depressed, when something as significant as that happens to you, but like you're gonna probably get the most significant recovery like while you're there, you know? And you kind of have no time to lose or time to waste, and like not only that, like we were aware of, there were certain patients from certain rooms who, like, we were aware, like, they didn't show up to any of the courses to learn more about our new conditions or limitations. They didn't show up to physical therapy. They didn't show up to occupational therapy or recreational therapy. There were some people that just stayed in their rooms, and I get it, like I feel for them. It's hard. It's hard. But like like in contrast, that's why like my doctors and nurses did notice this about me, that I was very motivated, that I showed up to everything. That's what my friends who could only see what was happening based on what my cousin was posting to social media about my thing, because I was so worn out. I was so tired. I was so unable to, I didn't have good uh usage of like my hands, and like my dad knows that I have struggled a lot this year, and he has been very supportive of me. He listen I'm very grateful for to him. He listens to my angry rants and lets me, and totally understands why I feel super angry and sad. And he just wanted it to be clear that like he's noticed that I have been strong like this whole time. And it just, and because of that, it kind of, it stands out. And seeing someone who has been very self-motivated their whole life, and who has tried very hard, just basically like give up, you know. I know that about myself. Like I feel like I've just kind of, this year I just really for the first time felt like just it's time to throw the towel in. It's time to give up. I can't help but wonder, or like even like think that I might have been even more motivated, to really try and get back out there more than I already did, if I was around my friends. And on that note, this whole long journey has been sadly mostly alone. Like I transferred 4 times before I finally found a program that fit my health needs. And I graduated a whole 8 years later when previously I was on track to finish in 4 years with a double major. I couldn't really fit in a lot of, like, extra stuff on top of schooling, but since I was doing school anyway, I really pushed myself because I wanted this for me, so I still made the effort. I still graduated summa cum laude, and I'm proud of myself for that, and, I want to tap into the things that I am proud of myself for accomplishing and doing um because this whole year, like, knowing that that me did that, um this whole year just felt like this was like the ultimate slump year. This was the ultimate depression year, but like I needed this, I needed to really grieve. I needed to be angry. I needed to feel these things. Um I want to be able to look back on this later and feel like, you know what? I am in a few years maybe and feel like, "You know what? I'm doing so much better than where I was at in 2024, and I am happy and proud of myself for getting even just a little bit back in touch with that person who still had some kind of goals or dreams. I'm glad to have found a therapist who specializes in chronic illness this year because like I have tried to do some therapy in the past and it just felt like they never really got how to address the like really insidious nature of like chronic like grief when it comes with like chronic illness because you are constantly in a state of being reminded of what you can't do and like a new thing to grieve like on a daily basis, especially because like your body is like a vessel that you carry yourself that you are carried through the world with, and not to say that like typical bereavement, so like like the loss of like a loved one, like someone you have been very close to. Not to say like that's any easier necessarily, but it's definitely different because, for example, something that is kind of unique to chronic illness and disability grief is that like a lot of the coping mechanisms that you might use to kind of try to feel more at peace or take your mind off of like your grief of um the loss of losing someone. For example, maybe you like to go on runs, to or you maybe like to go on a hike, to feel more at peace. It's a coping mechanism for you. And for chronically ill or disabled people, like for example, for me, I can't hike. I've never been able to return to hiking. um, I've never been strong enough since I got TM, and that's something I used to do, and that's something that did used to give me a lot of peace. And so it's just like something that used to be a coping mechanism. You can't do. Not only can you not access it anymore, you also are mourning not being able to do it in the first place. So it's like a double whammy. But yeah, and so but so weirdly enough, like you might have noticed in my in some of the posts, if you were curious to stop and read some of them, you might notice that I was very clearly sharing my faith in Christ. And this is what brings me to the like this mini section that like I don't want to spend too much time on, but I felt inclined to share that I'm no longer part of the faith just because in previous videos I have been um pretty open about how I was a person of faith, and I just want to make it clear that at least with this video, I just want to put it out there that like I am not. I have officially left the faith of as of February 2024 this year. And because of that, it is like kind of in a way grieving like a thing that used to help me for so long. And I also just want to make it clear that like I have nothing against like people of faith, of any kinds, of all kinds, like and if it helps you personally, like if it brings you personal comfort or peace or purpose, fulfillment, community, I totally get that. Like I'm happy for you if that works out, if that helps you. The buck does stop with like if you're trying to limit other people's rights based on your religion. But other than that, yeah, I'm happy that people have that.
The big thing about my deconstruction journey that's relevant to this video, since like it's a long thing and it's not the main point of this video, but like one of the main things that was really important for me to dissect about myself this year is the fact that I have always wanted to be a like good daughter to my mom when she was still alive, and then also my dad. And of course, they are both people of faith. And my dad is a pastor. I've heard on and off all throughout my life that all these other pastors' kids have like left the faith. And I guess I just didn't want to be that kind of person, especially because my dad has been so like genuinely supportive of me. But I am happy to say that like I just want to make it clear, like I am so glad my dad is my biggest support. He totally understands and gets why I have left. And I was scared because, again, I'm not financially independent. I live with my dad. And I floated it for so long. I was worried that if I was truly honest, that I've left, that he would like kick me out. But yeah, happy to say that he still totally supports me. I'm really thankful to him. He just wants me to be happy, and that includes like yeah, so if that includes leaving a religion and what I can only see as like an abusive relationship, he is totally okay with with that, in the sense where again he just wants me to live my own life and be happy. So
I feel like I was always more inclined to a more naturalistic worldview in general. So it just it for I guess like to kind of sum up maybe my thoughts on this. I feel like if you were a good, let's say, like Christian or just like any kind of religion or faith, like you would think you would be centering your worldview would be based on your faith, right? But I'm kind of like the other way around, or the opposite. I've always tried to justify my faith to my worldview, and that was already considerably hard. It's very hard to be I've tried to do so much apologetic stuff, like starting from early high school about like how to be like a progressive Christian. But yeah, I am so grateful to have found the Mindshift channel. I found this channel back in November of 2023, and he really sped up like the deconstruction process for me, because he really speaks to, because he uses a scripture. That's what speaks to me, as someone who like, I've been to Bible school before, um I was super into apologetics, and I like using like the scripture itself, to like refute itself. um his video on Job not only said everything that I've ever kind of thought of Job, but even way more, like way more than just that. It's kind of like the perfect video or summation of it for someone like me. And so I that is the one video I'll link above, or in the cards, or like in the description, if you're curious about this channel. But yeah, I have been so angry this year. Like I have been no like I have there is something I have no greater disdain for than like the freaking Abrahamic God, like the concept of this God. Like I personally cannot see him as anything but like a narcissistic asshole who just really delights in like my suffering too. Cause like at this point it's kind of like what's the point of like allow like just it's just chronic pain. Like it's just like kind of just torture for like why? Like why? Some people be like, "Oh, but it's to test your faith or to like, dude, I've been faithful this whole time. Like what at this point?" Yeah, it's just it seems so egregious, and yeah, I've spent so many. I want to be able to get to a point, um, past this year of just like because I've already left, and I want to be able to get to a point where like I'm not constantly thinking about how much I fucking hate this this dude. Yeah. But anyway, I guess this is like the final kind of section. I spent a lot of days just like crying a lot. I go in between raging, like being fucking raging mad to like and then also just like crying in bed. I feel like the therapy has been helping. I did start that in like late-ish September-ish, and I feel like I have been slowly feeling better, getting better. As I feel like especially from November onwards, I feel like I've been doing better than I have like all year. And not only that, like November did give me kind of some, like something to feel kind of hopeful about, or at least just like look into. I'm not going to place all my hopes on it. I know to like have tempered expectations for everything really. But so it's this news I learned from I had a follow up, my yearly follow up with my UCSF neurologist, and he shared with me that there is this like new study and this new kind of like it's still in very early stages but looked very promising on treating basically um untreatable otherwise neuropathic pain. So neuropathic is just nerve pain. It's probably the biggest detriment to me because like the disability part is not as hard to because I can still learn to adapt around that. It's literally the pain and the fatigue that comes from the pain medication that is like the biggest detriment and thing hindering me in my life. And so he shared that there's this new kind of thing called scrambler therapy. And I guess like the official name is called like calmer whatever therapy. It's not really at a lot of places yet. It's really only at like the big public universities or just like the big hospitals in general, like the typical like the Johns Hopkins and Mayo Clinic kind of thing. Anyway, though, he said that like, hey, it might be worth looking into that. So again, I don't want to put all my hopes into it, but like it is something that yeah, I feel like I can look forward to get in touch with someone who might be able to, like see if there's like some sort of like clinical trials or studies being done on it. Not only that, but like I just want to tap into like and be proud of myself. I want to be able to look back at this video and not only feel like, dang, like, oh man, wow, I was doing so poorly. To kind of sum up this year, it just really feels like chronic illness just really feels like I'm just like a ghost. Like I'm just kind of watching people living life and doing stuff and I just like I'm not interacting and being unable to interact with it and stuff. And like I get that I'm still limited, but like I'm trying to I'm just trying to find ways to feel like living my own way. Again, I just want to be able to feel like yeah, to feel like I'm kind of I am content enough with where I'm at, like I have been able to do. for a long time and for so long, except now without the religious element to it. I can still do the same thing I always have done, but just without the religious part. The videos that I have in I have planned and in store for you, there are a lot. I hope you look forward to them. There's a lot of great stuff, and I will be sharing a little bit more about that in the coming weeks, maybe.
I honestly spent most of this year just waiting to die, like just feeling like it's over. And now I'm just waiting for death. Um, yeah, I'm really tired of living that way. And I am genuinely looking forward. I'm glad that I'm turning a page from 2024 to 2025. And I am just hoping, at least mentally, to be anything better than last year would be great. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much to everyone who is watching. This was a super long video, and also just, I know I rambled a lot. Um, but yeah, I want to wish you all a happy 2025, and I hope this year is a good one for you guys too. Thank you to all my patrons. And yeah, just everybody watching. I really appreciate the support of you guys through the screen, and also the family and friends that I do have. Take care. Happy 2025.